I'm just going to look at it real quick so I can.
Well, please do.
I'm
What's the one procedure?
a speed reader. There you go.
What do I need to do?
Make a motion that we accept the minutes.
Okay, hang on a second.
Sure.
Well, this isn't a big deal, but I did try to remark on the fact that we spend a great deal of our time, most of our time, talking about facilities and not very much about the resources that it's our responsibility to manage. So I would like the minutes to reflect the fact that I made that interjection, or made that point.
Okay, we can add that to tonight's minutes. You didn't make that comment in the last meeting.
I did.
You did.
I did. Yes. I think it's an important matter of policy that the commission consider its responsibility to managing the resources that are entrusted to us, as well as the facilities that have been overlaid on those resources. And I'm quite serious about the fact that I don't think we spend enough time discussing or considering our responsibility towards those resources. And whether you agree with me or not, I would like the minutes to reflect my opinion in that regard.
So noted. Again, accept or amend the December 4th. We do have an amendment. Ms. Mary. To the December 4th, 2017 regular meeting minutes. Make a motion to accept.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Now is the time for public comment. Please state your name and address. Please limit your comments to no more than 3 minutes.
Christine Murray, Duck Lake Road, Idaho. Mine fits into the resources. It was brought up at the last meeting regarding rules and regulations for the park, and it was mentioned about guidelines. Well, guidelines aren't enforceable. And my belief is, and the duty of the commission is to protect the safety, welfare of all the residents. So I made a copy, I went online, took a copy of the Idaho County Parks Recreation Commission's rules, regulations, and ordinances. And I have copies I'll hand out, but you can go online, but one of the major ones are that you are no person while on park property shall destroy, injure, deface, disturb, remove, or befoul any part of the park, area, building, sign, equipment, or other property herein, nor shall any tree, turf, grass, dune grass, flower, shrub, or any other plant, rock, or any other mineral be removed, injured, or destroyed. You cannot mark, paint, chalk, or in any way leave a permanent or temporary mark on any surface within park property, including but not limited to trees, buildings, pavements, steps, railings, or signs, unless prior written permission is obtained from the commission. In addition, their rules are that trespassing on adjacent private property is prohibited. That, let's see. You cannot conduct any activity, including or authorized use in any manner that unduly threatens the safety or any individual, or threatens to damage or harm commission property or the natural resources. prohibited conduct in any manner disturb the peace and quiet or good order of the park area, disturb another person or park neighbor. You cannot commit any or make or engage in any noisy, boisterous, disorderly, lewd, lascivious, or indecent conduct. And we know that's been going on. I think it's been brought up that we cannot enjoy our property because people are swearing, using obscene language, and we have young children around. So we believe that you need to enforce these rules and put rules in place.
Bob Murray, Duck Lake Road. You would think, with all the years that I spent working in Parks and Recreation and going to meetings, that I'd have better things to do than come to these meetings. But, you know, I feel that it is important enough that I come and speak and speak to the people. So, it was mentioned in the last meeting about the kids program that was going to cost 10% of the budget, but I find it funny that, you know, it was quite okay then to turn around and spend a third of the budget, you know, on disc golf, which, you know, benefits, you know, an outside private interest group rather than the residents. Now, in your mission statement, it stated in there that your goal was to keep the park in pristine condition, and, you know, and I've heard in the last meetings, you know, you stated that that's not really happening. You know, the tennis courts are falling apart. You even talked about closing, you know, one of them down. Really sad for me because, you know, I kind of grew up, you know, coming up here and using all these facilities. So, you know, it's, once again, you know, it doesn't really make sense to me that the very limited budget that you guys have to work with, compared to the millions that I had, you know, to spend on parks maintenance. You know, you've got, you know, 30,000, and to spend a third of that on that, rather than addressing some of the maintenance issues that, once again, in the master plan, you identified as important issues that needed to be addressed, you know, right away. You set those aside, you know, to put the disc golf course in. Now, there are other issues here, you know, that are safety related. You know, the steps are not up to building codes. The play lot or the playground equipment isn't even really commercial equipment. It's, you know, it's like homeowner grade backyard equipment that really has several safety issues that needs to be addressed. I do agree, you know, with your statement that you need to replace that, but that's going to take, you know, quite some time and some really creative financing to do so. With your budget, you know, you're really going to need grants, you're going to need sponsorships, you need to, you know, bring in handicap accessible features to it, you know, to enhance the chance of you getting that. But that's going to take some time, so you really need to, you know, make what you have safe right now. So, you know, okay.
Linda, Mr. Blaine, I noticed that the disc golf course is not included in your unfinished business column. So all I can assume from looking at this is that the commission considers the disc golf course matter and potential damage and spread of disease as finished business. In addition, the White Lake Beacon recently published an article where Greg Barrett made a statement as representative of the Parks and Recreation Commission that tree guards have been installed with success. And I'm asking, since this was made as a representative of the Parks and Recreation Commission, I'd like more detail Where have tree guards been installed with success? What are your methods and definitions used to determine whether these tree guards are a success or not? And have any scientific studies been done on these tree guards by actual professionals who can scientifically measure whether they've been a success? And that's all I had to say just about, other than I don't consider the disc golf course unfinished business, and we're not going to go away. And by you not addressing it doesn't mean this issue is going to go away. We're still going to pursue this. This oak wilt is a very serious problem that's going to hit West Michigan. And speaking to the state park superintendent over at Duck Lake State Park, it's over 80% oaks over there. And the rest are the pine tree, the hemlock that is subject to hemlock woolly aguilid, which is potentially spread by disc golf as well. So you can imagine the devastating impact. People come to West Michigan for tourism, to visit the parks. If that hits the park over there, if it hits this park, you're going to lose so many trees. I don't think you can envision it. What they're doing in some areas is having people go out and tie ribbons on the oaks so you can see what percent of the forest you're going to lose. So I just want to also ask, Commissioner Barrett had said that he is going to contact Dr. Robertson and get with him on the issues at the last meeting. I'd like to know if he did and what the progress is regarding that conversation. That's it.
Hi guys, I'm Terry Campbell, I live on Duck Lake Road. Many of you know me as playing several roles here in the township. Tonight I'd like to play the role of cheerleader. We have some things to talk about, and I was hoping that we could have another meeting sometime, maybe where it's more of like a brainstorming meeting, but you know, that's for you to figure out when and how. But first thing I want to just point out, just as a thought, is that Michigan has 4,000 miles of water trails. Our lake right here and our park is on the map as a destination on that water trail. Can we do something about that to bring people here to address the issues that are concerns of other people by bringing them through the water trail? And is it possible that Duck Creek could be actually used as a non-motorized water trail all the way up to the natural area, the 300 acres? Just something for you to think about. It is a destination site, I'm sure. One of the things that I want you guys, as commission members, to think about is going to the annual MTA conference this year. It's in Traverse City. It's in April 23rd to the 26th. There's going to be a lot of workshops and things about fundraising, about involving the community, creating more engagement of community people, making sure that we are all kind of on board with, you know, master plan and where we're going with that with parks and recreation. So I'm going to keep bringing this up to y'all, and anybody is eligible to go to this with the township support, whether you're elected or nominated or appointed, you can go to it. The township has some education money to pay for your attendance at this thing, so think about that. Also, because I want to try to work collaboratively with all kinds of groups across the township, I'm going to invite you guys again to our next Friends of the Fruitland Township Multi-Use Trail, which I think is going to be on Tuesday the 16th, about 2 weeks from now. Hopefully right here in this room. I'd like to have you all there. I'd like to also have you at the next meeting of the Natural Area Advisory Committee, because you know that you've made sort of a commitment to be part of that. I'd like to see you there, you know, giving input, influencing the plans that are being made for that. I also just want to support you in the idea you came up with last week. I believe it was Mark that said he's still not given up on the idea of a festival or some kind of a community event here in the park. I think it's a great idea. It'll help bring people in, show them the lake, you know, the Great Lake Water Trail destination, make the lake more of a centerpiece for this township and more of an active place for all kinds of activities. Bring in volunteers. I mean, it's just a great way to organize a community. And again, if you do something like that, you get a lot of help from other townships that have done similar things. So again, I urge you to go to this. That's about it for me, but I just want to keep offering my support I do have a skill set that I think you can find useful, like grant writing, working on volunteer projects, organizing. Call me, please.
I'd like to thank all of our guests for their comments this evening. Receipts, disc golf donations of $10. Make a motion that we accept the $10. All in favor? All opposed? No disbursements for the month of December. Unfinished business, NHS volunteering.
I have not got contact with Bobby yet.
And Brian is not here this evening, so I'm sure we're not going to get our pavilion door replacement report. Tree trimming.
That was your report.
On tree trimming?
Yeah.
I did receive a call from Don Stafford, and he's gonna contact me again hopefully this week. He said he's out of town this week, last week he was. And the 2850 total that we approved did include trimming around the pavilion, or the pavilion here too. So the 2,500 that we budgeted will cover everything outside of the pavilion, and the township itself will probably pick up the other 350.
Excellent.
And they're aware of the April 15th deadline too, so that everything would be done prior to the April 15th.
This will be done prior to March 31st.
Oh, March 31st. I thought it was April 15th, but they changed it to, for the budget, yes. He said that they should be able to get on it in February or March at the latest, when the weather breaks.
Okay, good.
But he's gonna try to meet with me here in the next week or two and go over everything more in detail.
Excellent. Baseball fence capping. In our last meeting, reported that our risk management indicated that we could use the drain tile, drain tubing, that kind of thing. I have a quote here from Lowe's for 1,300 feet of the capping, as well as the ultraviolet resistant zip ties. And with delivery, we're looking at $698.58. They said that we could, and that is like half of what the regular capping, sports capping you can buy, or regular sports capping if you want. That's about half the cost. Of course, it does mean volunteers to put it out, which I'm sure it's going to be bringing Tom and I. So I would like to make a motion that we go ahead and purchase, before I make the motion, Lowe's indicated that if we order after February 3rd, and at that time that we place our order, then we can determine what day we want it delivered, so we can have it delivered the end of February, or the end of March, so that we can put it on in April or something, when the weather gets a little bit better. So that way we're actually staying within the budget year, because we do have the dollars to take care of that at this point. So I would like to make a motion that we accept the quote from Lowe's and move forward with baseball cap.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right, I will take care of that on February 4th.
How'd you get a $20 delivery charge?
I had them check our account, and because we have a Lowe's charge account with them, then we only get charged $20 on delivery instead of $65.
Cool.
And they'll deliver everything out when we want it. Park registration, we kind of left that open-ended at this point. Do we have any other comments or concerns that we want to talk about regarding park registration? Do we have
I
any
still
solutions?
think, although I used it myself at first, that registration might not be the right word. Perhaps sign in or something like that would be more appropriate. I mean, my idea was never to make it a condition for using the park merely as a vehicle for gathering information about who is using the park and what numbers and for what purposes. And especially since we've made a major change in the use profile for the lower part of the park, which has never, as far as I know, since it was logged, been used heavily for anything. And now it's going to be subject to much heavier use, not just because of the disc golf course, but also because of the access that the disc golf course gives to parts of the park where you would have had a bushwhack to get through before. And I think, getting some idea about the level of use in this area under these changed conditions is part of our responsibility for managing the resource. And as I mentioned last time, I'm sure that professional managers of park resources, which, sorry, we certainly are not, would have guidelines that they would use with regard to management options depending on the level and nature of the use that's being made of the resource. That was the point I wanted to make.
I mean, I like the idea of finding out who's coming to the park and what services and what parts of the park we're using. I'm wondering if maybe, Tom, you could help develop some questions to help with that.
Where are you from? What are you doing in the park?
Yeah, what facilities you use, how often you come to the park, is this a vacation? Just a series of questions that maybe we can post on the website to start with. And then maybe take a look at SurveyMonkey or something like that down the road. And that might be a way to start. I think that if we just develop a series of questions and print them out and have them available for people to pick up, that's a possibility too. But let's use other media as well. And maybe we can if we have it on the website, we might be able to utilize social media to direct people to those questions.
Well, that would be nice, but do you want me to work up some questions?
Yeah, would you?
Yeah,
That would be great. Some things that you're going to feel are demographically important to
I think
future decision making.
you also brought up at the last meeting too about something where we have them scan something with their phone
We could do that.
and act, that might not be a bad idea. If we had a place where
Well,
those answers to show up someplace, right?
is it correct for me to take this request from the chair as a kind of semi-endorsement of the idea of doing this, rather than just a general rejection of it? Because if the idea is rejected, then the details don't matter. So,
Maybe we should.
are you saying that we may well want to go ahead with this if it's properly formulated?
I think so.
Is that what we really think?
I don't have any objection to it.
Mary?
No, it sounds good to me. I like the idea of the QR codes. They can, have their phone maybe pop up some questions. They can fill them in into the website.
Yeah.
Yeah, if the questions are on the website, the QR
I'm not saying what about the utility of the website in this regard, but we'll try it and see.
Park rules and regulations, I'm still developing those at this point, and I agree with the comment made that they should not be guidelines, that they should be regulations. So I want to be very inclusive of what we post and how we post it. And I may get Kevin involved in that, the legalese portion of it. So I really don't have anything to present at this point. When I do finish it up, then I will send it out via email for everyone to review, and we can bring it up at a future meeting and make any amendments. future projects. And this kind of ties in with our next item as well as the budget. Is there any other future projects that we should be looking at to include in the budget at this point? I say this only because this budget has to go to the clerk this month. I have to have it to him. I should have it to him to Carolyn next week. And then I'll go to the trustees, and I'll be answering the questions the trustees have in regards to our budget amounts.
Okay, well, I handed out the section 7 of our handbook. Everybody should have a copy of that. And on page 22, there's an action program project list. And this was developed in 2015. It's a 5-year plan, and it's broken down by park. I don't know if everybody sees that in there. It's on page 22, so do the second page, the back side of the front page. It has a layout of the 5-year plan for all the parks. And under Duck Lake Road Park, of course, that may be a little bit different now, and they actually lose a bunch of that property. That may change a little bit. I see that we do have some of the things done on there. We still have quite a few other things to get after in the next few years. And I think it's, this was developed, I believe, by data taken from residents was collected, and these things came up from that. So I think we need to focus on these things, and also under programs. Last week I talked about, or last meeting I made a mention about the cost for that program, but for the kids, the youth program. But it does say in here programs for children and community-wide events. So I think we do need to focus on something for youth programs, and of course the community event that we were talking about. Having something back down here at Eastern Park. I know we used to have the Blueberry Festival down here. We used to come down every year. That's why we came to Marcus Park. And so I think that's stuff that we just need to focus on. We can't lose sight of what our 5-year plan is set before us. I think a lot of us are new here, and we weren't here when this was developed, but we still need to look at it and base our budget and projects on.
Okay.
I did notice something on your budget here. You've got tree trimming, 2,500 for 2018, but we'd be doing that this year, so we don't need that.
Right.
So that can be eliminated, right?
So we're going to move on to the budget. There's any other questions regarding future projects?
What about, is Marcus Park considered a future project?
Yeah, it's right here. If you look under the Marcus Park,
Right.
the things that we'll put on for the 5-year plan is bike racks, improved parking conditions, porta-john,
Right.
handicap accessible mats, a small deck for fishing, improve overall accessibility. So I know that the porta-john is on the list. So we are starting to look at things, but I think we need to, especially when we're talking about improved parking, I don't think that's a 1-year deal. I think that is going to be something that's going to have to be spread over several years to get it all done, because the costs are going to be higher than we can probably fit in one year budget.
I have just the same general comment that I made at the beginning, and that is that the budget focuses almost exclusively and more exclusively on facilities, and does not talk about policy matters or expenditures related to the management of the natural resource, which is the basis for our park system in the township. I think this is inappropriate and misguided.
Well, as far as the maintenance is concerned, we had the tree trimming on there. We'll be taking it off, and we'll have that completed. What other projects would you think fall into that category that we could add to this budget, should we need to?
I'm not sure it's a matter of expenditure so much as it is a matter of policy and priority.
Okay,
I
policy.
mean, if you're going to take all your money and spend it on this stuff, it's a moot point about what else you might do with regard to resource management. And I say again that sorry folks, I don't think that any of us here are qualified as natural resource managers. So for you to pose that question to me is kind of like asking me, you know, how do you hit 300 when you're a major league hitter? I don't know. There are people who do know, and they're the ones that probably ought to be asked.
But a budget is a dollars and cents item, so are you proposing that we hire somebody or?
Yeah, that would be a logical thing to do. You know, a natural resource manager who could advise us about policies and priorities related to the preservation and enhancement of the park's rural natural resources, not all this business about fences and fences.
Well, are you willing to see if there's someone out there that we can hire, and can you get me a dollar amount before a week from Friday?
A week from Friday.
Because that's when I'm gonna need to get it done.
What do you think of someone like Dallas, Goldberg, or?
Yes, but not necessarily. I'm not sure.
Somebody like that.
I'm not sure. I've never, you know, received this level of support for that idea. So I understand the time was tight, but perhaps, well, I guess I better do it because otherwise the money's going to get spent on other stuff. So
You know, and the
yeah,
money,
I'll look into it.
and the money for the fence capping is a requirement from an insurance.
No, I understand that. I was trying to be alliterative and poetic. I beg your pardon.
You are.
No, and I agree, and I understand that we need to, as well as maintain the facilities in our parks, we need to manage our natural resources as well, and I think that's a point well taken. But again, this is the budget, and if we need to hire someone, then we have to put it in our budget so that we can afford to do that with them.
Well, I think, you know, the recognition of the fact we can't do this ourselves is important. And I will look into getting some advice about how to move forward.
Perfect. That'd be wonderful.
If you're looking for other ideas, right here in the project list, there are, one of the requests is benches along the trails for bird watching at Eastern Road Park. I think that would be something that we can put in there to get down here along the park. And the other thing is the accessibility for handicap. I mean,
Sure.
you cannot get down to the lake if you're handicapped. The only way was to take that other trail out and around that's closed off as the gate. So I don't know if that's something we ought to consider to allow people, handicapped people, to use that to get down to the lake or not.
You need to drive down there?
Yep.
We don't have a parking area down there. So
No, we don't. But I'm just throwing it out there. I'm not saying,
Right.
let's do it. I'm just saying, it says improved handicap accessibility to all areas of the park is on this plan. So it's something that we have to think about. Do we want to allow the handicapped people to get down to the lake or not?
And the only problem you get into is that if you open that gate up and have it open, everybody's gonna start driving.
Well, it would have to be handicap accessible vehicles only. I mean, if you're either as a commission, we're gonna say, yes, we wanna try to get handicapped people down the lake, or no, we don't. And if we do, then we have to figure out how to do it. But I'm just saying, it's on our 5-year plan, we at least need to consider that. I know me with small kids, when my children were small, I didn't take them down here because dragging kids down those stairs, 3 kids and whatever other you put me, it's just not realistic.
Maybe that's where Marcus Park comes in.
That's where I took my kids, because I could get them there.
But does that mean that also we have to have handicap accessibility to Eastern Park to get down to the water?
Well, that's what I'm saying, those are, it's on both Marcus Park and in Eastern Park is handicap accessibility for both. There's mats and a small deck, Marcus Park. So there's things we need to do. I'm just saying, when we start addressing the budget, I think we need to use this as our guideline. Unless we're going to change it. What's that? I didn't know.
Tom just told me a joke.
And Duck Lake Road Park, of course, you know, that whole thing is potentially changing. But I think we need to use this as a guideline. This is what's set before us. It's our responsibility to follow this guideline unless we decide to change it.
Which we can do.
I don't know. I don't know how this.
Not outside the 5-year plan.
So.
You can revise that in the next 5-year plan,
Okay.
but not.
So we need to
So it's our obligation to follow it as best as possible.
use it as a guideline, absolutely.
You know, and there are going to be a lot of things in that master plan that were, you know, projects, that were ideas, that were possibilities, and you're not going to get them all done.
What is this improve, that doesn't mean, well, I mean, you could improve the accessibility for handicappers to get down there by just taking that gate out, you know, but.
So I'm afraid that
But you
grade
don't want-
on that 2-track is, you know, you'd have to allow them to get down there with the vehicle. After that point, they can use the existing trail system to get there. Because that's not
You're opening
too
up
bad.
a bigger can of worms too if you do something like that.
Well,
I
maybe
know
you don't
the
even
boards
open it
have-
up to vehicles. Maybe you open it up to the width of a wheelchair and we have it groomed so you can bring a wheelchair up and down there with that planking or whatever.
Have you walked that grade to get you down to the 4th floor?
Yeah, up through the.
Through the gate.
Yeah, through the track, yeah.
I'm afraid that grade's probably too steep for.
I don't know, my mom's handicapped, I push her all over the place.
It's not too bad.
I could push my mom up and down that, no problem.
Well, yeah, I'm sure there's some guidelines in regards to elevation and grade. I mean, it's kind of steep.
I don't know, I push my mom on a lot of, you should see the U of M up to get up to the, and down to the football field. It's pretty.
Have you
Very-
tried
very
taking her down there and see?
You can't, no, you can't take her there. You can't take a wheelchair down there.
As it is now? What would have to
You
be
get
done?
stuck.
It's too soft?
Yeah, it's too soft. I mean, there's all kinds of, like, I've taken her all over the country. And there's lots of, even Pure Marquette Park, there's that metal planking.
Right.
You can take them so far out onto the beach area.
So you're proposing maybe like an asphalt trail?
That would work too. Something that the tires aren't gonna get, those narrow tires aren't gonna get stuck on.
When you say, I forget what the word was used, did you use handicapped or to refer to people with mobility problems? Is that what you're, when did you say handicapped? Or what word did you use? Handicapped. So you're thinking of people, when you use the word handicapped, which is very broad and in some circles considered really pejorative, you're thinking largely about people with mobility disorders, is that
Right.
correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, it doesn't have to necessarily be people that are wheelchair confined. It could be people
Right.
that would have a difficult time navigating stairs as well, where they could walk on a grade, but it would be difficult to navigate stairs.
That's my point. There are gradations and differences depending on what the nature of the quote disability is. But with regard specifically to people with mobility challenges, yeah, you're right, there's no way anybody can get down there right now, so, unless they're capable of sliding their butt, so.
Well, and get back up those stairs, even if somebody could make it down there, just an elderly person that's not in a chair, coming back up those stairs where they could come up a grade is a lot easier. My brother-in-law has one leg, him coming back up those stairs, it's not gonna happen. He can walk up the hill.
Yeah.
What about a ramp staircase for the,
It would have to be a back and forth,
Yeah.
gradual.
I've seen.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of options and ideas out there, I
What
think
is
we
that
need
cruise
to,
park there in, on Muskegon? The whole thing is like that, a part of it is like that. You know, where it's kind of tiered.
but I just, we talk a lot about the lakefront here, and if we're gonna make it accessible to all people, and like I said too, when I had 3 small kids in tow, there's no way I was taking them down those stairs.
I've always wanted to see one of these, the staircase here by the pavilion, be one of those gradual things that zigzag back and forth.
Right.
But that's gonna take a huge amount of money, so that's one of those projects that we wanna look for grant money to see if we can offset.
And
that.
handicap accessible there may be money for that.
But I say that's something we put on the project list. We're not gonna get it in a budget for this year, but we could look at it for next year's budget. Let's do all our homework ahead of time.
But I think the extra money that you're looking for too, I think the benches here, and we had benches along the trails.
And we have some down there now. There are 6 along the trail now,
Okay. Outside of the disc golf or just inside the disc golf?
just inside the disc golf, all of the disc golf. And that's not just the lower part, it's the upper part.
Okay, but
too.
there's other trails too besides the disc golf that we could put sitting benches in.
Mhm.
Like if somebody wants to sit, I mean, there's picnic tables down by the water, but maybe a nice bench down there for people just to sit in as opposed to sitting at a picnic table. It's different sitting on a bench versus so just some things to think about. Like I said, if we kind of
I
follow
know
the
a guy that
plan.
builds those things.
See it?
Yeah.
Yeah, for free.
Is he sitting in that chair right there?
Yeah.
Is there on that, going down that 2-track?
Service. Last meeting, I discussed that I would contact the director of the Sports and Shorts program. I sent all of you an email on December 5th in regards to my findings. The program is 4 weeks, middle of July to middle of August. The maximum amount of children that they allow into the program is 40. That's if it's held at the White Lake Community Center. If we go it alone like we've done in the past and have Sports and Shorts here at Eastern Park, they limit it to 30. If we partner with the community center, our investment is half. It's $1,500 for the year, or for the program, as opposed to $3,000. The stats that I was able to get from him was last year there were 22 children registered, or the year before, not last summer of 2016. There were 22 kids registered, of which 12 to 15 showed up every day during the program. Last year, because we didn't do the program here, they did it at the community center. The community center did it all on their own. They had 20 children enrolled with 12 to 15 showing up from Fruitland Township. And in talking to the program coordinator, there is more offerings and more opportunity craft-wise and educational-wise by holding the event at the community center as opposed to having it here at Eastern Park. So my recommendation is that, first of all, I think it's a worthy program. I think that we should partner with the White Lake Community Ed and do the program at the White Lake Community Center. We'll still be recognized as a partner. Fruitland Township will be. Hopefully we'll have the same amount of kids as we have every year. They'll have better opportunities at the community center as opposed to here at the park. For instance, we have a rain day. They don't have that day here. They have a rain day. They just keep it at the community center. They can do things there. So the program continues on.
So how do they recognize Fruitland Township as a contributor or partner?
Through the letters and mailings that they do to families that have aged children that will qualify for the program.
Do you know, do do they always meet there, or can they meet out here some of those days?
No, because all of the equipment and the things that they use for the crafts and the educational opportunities have to be brought in. Where they're at the community center, that's where they're housed.
And that's a daily thing, Monday through Friday?
For that 4-week period. I think it's a great way. I mean, they have you look at half of the kids that register for sports and shorts are from Fruitland Township. The other half are from White Lake here. So we're still being able to offer educational and craft opportunities for that 4-week program. Just we're not doing it here in the park. It would be done at the community center instead.
They could do a day or two of nature trails, learn about water, whatever here, learn about the birds, whatever in the.
Well, that's something that when I contact him back, because I have to let him know whether we're going to be part of this year or not. Now, all I'm asking for today is my recommendation is that we partner and do it at White Lake Community Ed. And if this commission agrees to that, we'll put it in the budget as such, and then it still has to be approved by the board of trustees.
And then we could make a request to, just say anything with Bob, is that right?
Yeah.
We could make a request and just ask them, like Mary says, if they could possibly come out here for a couple of nature days.
And I mean, that's something, if we're going to partner and pay for half the program, I think that it's reasonable that we could ask them for a day or two.
I'd like to see that as a requirement, kind of.
It would be nice if they come out here and just even use the baseball field, like kickball or whatever. If we're putting soccer fields in to,
Kick the soccer ball
kick
around.
the soccer ball
Take
around.
the kids around, take
Go
them
to
on
the
the
nature
trails.
trail, take them down to the
Introduce
lake,
them to
and,
the park.
yeah, really introduce them to the park.
Okay, I mean, I can ask them that,
Yeah.
if they would consider that, and if they say no, then what do you want to do? I guess today I've got to figure out, like I said, a week from Friday, I've got to submit the budget.
Well, it's
Which
part of
would
our
be this
programs,
time?
I think we need to do it now.
You say that with great solemnity, but what does that actually mean? That we have to submit the budget on Friday? I mean, does that mean, since we're not going to meet again before the budget is submitted, that we have to decide everything down to the last jot until tonight?
The first go around is with Carolyn, and then the next is with the board of trustees.
So
And it's
there will be another go around with this later on,
not necessarily.
right? So are
I mean,
you
that's why I
saying,
started bringing this up back in November.
yeah, I'm sorry to be so inexperienced, but are you saying if we don't ask for it tonight, we're not going to get it?
Well, then in between now and a week from Friday, we better, I mean, we're not guaranteed we're gonna get anything. But we have to have it in there so that I can present it.
Yeah.
I can't go back to them after the presentation and say, oh, by the way, we've decided to add this program and that program, and now we need a couple extra thousand or an extra 4,000 or 5,000 to do this, this, and this. Better to go in loaded, and they're gonna tell us what we can, they're gonna approve or not approve the budget.
Okay, so could you refresh my recollection briefly about what it is we're buying for our $3,000 with the sports insurance?
We're supporting an arts and crafts and educational opportunity for kids.
Yeah, so we're
4 weeks.
basically giving money to this other organization to support their activities.
They did that activity here, and it cost $3,000. They'll do the same activity, the same opportunity at the community center for half the money. And they have more opportunity there. They have more crafts, they have more educational programs that they can't bring out here. They can't, you know, it's not like it's not like the old library van that used to drive around the parking lots and you get to check out books from the library. They don't have it all loaded up. It's there at the community center.
I'm trying to get at what value we get for this money, which is you know, a tenth of our budget.
The value, and you know, you're the one at the last meeting that said that you were all about educational opportunities for kids. And so I pursued it, and I'd come back with a couple of options if we want to continue the sports insurance program, which I think is worthwhile.
Well, so what's the educational component again?
I don't know exactly, I don't have an itinerary of what they're going to do yet this year.
Yeah, that's my problem, is it's a pig in the poke at this point. I mean, it sounds great, but we're supporting somebody else's activities.
No, they're the same activities that we've always had here, Tom.
We can here, but they're not our activities.
They've never been our activities. They're activities that are created by the sports insurance program.
Yeah, and that's my point. Not our activities.
Right.
We're facilitating a program for somebody else.
Well, and that's the way we've always participated with it. If we wanted to create our own program, I think you're going to spend probably more along the lines of $5,000 to $6,000 before we program. And the kids,
Oh
and
my
half
gosh,
the
I should have
kids.
majored in diplomacy, which I certainly did not. Why are we paying them to come here and use our facilities?
It's for everything that they use for the kids.
It's
It's for everything that they use for the kids when they come.
Yeah, we're supporting
Yes.
the activities of
Yes.
this organization. Let's be clear about that. We want to spend the money on this. Yes, a subsidy to this other organization's activities.
They provide the activities for kids from from Fruitland Township. And we're paying for those kids to enjoy these crafts and these educational opportunities. And we're paying them to provide those things. If we want to hire our own people to do one of these programs, it would be much more expensive than what this is.
So last year there was, they said between 12 and 15 kids from Fruitland Township.
No, there were 20 registered, and on any given day, there were 12 to 15 kids there.
So let's say an average of 50. So we could roughly say we're spending $100 a kid for 4 weeks, 20 days, $5 a day for each kid.
Well, I appreciate the clarification. I understand better now.
I think it's a worthy program.
Well, not a worthy program.
Sure there are. Do we want to invest in this one?
We,
Do you have a personal involvement with this organization?
we did in the
None whatsoever.
This is something that's been done in the township for a very long time, until last year. It's something that when I was here in 2000, I want to say 10, they had still been doing it for years before that. So it's not something that's new by any means. It's something they've continued for many years.
So parents within the township have a reasonable expectation that they're going to have this outlet for their kids during the summer. Okay.
And
I understand.
what's the feedback on it? Is it feedback been pretty positive?
Very positive.
Yeah,
And who knows? I mean, there are a lot of younger people moving into the township these days. They do limit it to 40 kids. Now that's 40 kids if it's at the community center, only 30 kids if we do it here.
Yep.
And 2016, we had 22 registered with 12 to 15 coming per day. Last year, there were 20 from Fruitland Township at the community center, of which 12 to 15 showed up on a daily basis.
Does anybody know anybody personally that used it?
No, I did not.
Just curious as to.
Well, everything's a question of priorities. I certainly am not being cynical, although it may sound like it. Certainly sounds like a higher priority to me than benches for the disc golf course. So, seen in that light, I can certainly support it.
Well, we're doing benches in the disc golf course, but they're also part of the trail system, which is part of our master plan.
As I said, it's all a question of priorities.
And this, by far, is probably one of the smallest budgets this commission has brought before the trustees in a number of years.
Well, while we're on the subject, I noticed that tennis court is zeroed out in this proposal.
Because I don't have final quotes. I was contacting individuals to give us some ideas on cost. I have the documentation that Lynn had from last year's budget about it, but with the holidays, you think people are...
I'm not faulting you, I'm just saying, you know, from what we've heard in the past, this could double the budget.
Although it depends on what we do.
I mean, if we were
We're
gonna,
just gonna do a few repairs, it could be 3,000 or 4,000. If we're gonna try to replace the tennis court, it could be 75 grand.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna recommend that we replace a court. I recommend that we do repairs again this year, whatever repairs we need to do.
And we don't know what that figure is yet.
No, I do not.
I've never played tennis on a court on the south side of Chicago, but I've shot a few hoops in the Park District basketball courts, and they don't have to be perfect to be playable.
Well, we've got a couple of good-sized cracks in one of the courts, and that does have a tendency to screw up your tennis ball when you hit it. So, you know,
Well, it sounds to me like a particular challenge akin to playing pool on a gibbous table. And it's not impossible, it's just a lot more difficult.
Ball field fence capping, we can eliminate that, right?
right, I've already scratched it.
We've already
I've
scratched.
scratched that and scratched the tree trimming. So
Okay.
that's $3,700 out of the budget right there.
Right,
And right now, currently, I have sports and shorts at 3,000.
and it would be reduced to
It
1,500.
could be reduced to 1,500 if this commission agrees that we want to partner with White Lake Community.
Are we gonna put in anything for repairs and maintenance? Just a blanket coverage like we had this year?
We could.
I think we had, I think the figure was 2,500 this year, but, you know, just to cover unforeseen things that come up.
I can add a line here under capital improvements, miscellaneous repairs, or whatever it is in the last budget. I'll use that
That's just a
language.
suggestion,
No,
everybody
I
else
think it's good. I think it's good
You
too.
have a category that's actually repairs and maintenance, so you would probably want to put it under there.
Okay.
You know, even if it was just 500 or 1,000 or something, just, it doesn't mean we have to use it, because we didn't use it all this year.
Well, let's just put it in at 25 and see what they come back at. It's better to go big than not have it at all.
How is this different from the long-term maintenance emergency account?
That is a new account that I want to create. And that account is for long-term maintenance, as I brought up in the last meeting. That account is for things like 3 years down the road, 2 years down the road, we're gonna have to put a new roof on the North Pavilion. And we don't want to add that to the budget. What I want to do is create this account that we put money away. Think about it as
Can it
your,
roll over?
yes,
That account could roll over?
yes, it would roll over every year.
Like the disc golf donations, et cetera, that's an account that.
Could roll over. The long-term maintenance and repairs is exactly what that is, and it's an emergency fund.
Right.
We never had that before. We've never had anything like that before. And that's money that we put in, it's in our budget every year, it goes into that account. And when the day comes and we have to replace a roof, or we have an emergency, as we did in summer of 2016, and it was $560 to repair the drinking fountain.
Can the water be rolled over if it's not expended?
Yes, it is rolled over. So that, well, that's the way I'm presenting it. This is not an account. I'm asking for it. And we're gonna see
So
whether or
there's
not.
nothing about the way Township does business that keeps you from creating a bank account like this.
You know, it's all money in the coffer. We're just distributing it into an account.
Well, you put $3,500 in it and you don't spend it, what happens to it?
It stays there for the next year. We put 35 more in it the next year. And the next year, we're gonna put 35 more in it again. Because when it comes time to do that roof out there, it's gonna be a $6,000 bill.
I heard it sounds like, oh, okay, you're calling it long-term maintenance.
Long-term maintenance, and well,
So that's the
long-term maintenance and
maintenance
emergency.
for things that only come up at long intervals.
Oh, yeah, or we have some kind of an emergency. We had money left over in repairs and maintenance this year to do the ball capping. That could have been an emergency program, because it has a lot to do and impacts our insurance, our liability insurance.
Okay, well, you know, as long as the township lets us pay money like that, that's fine.
Well, I'm gonna ask them if they'll let us do it.
Yeah.
They may say no, but remember, this has not been seen by the board of trustees yet. It's only been seen by the supervisor. I'm gonna meet with Carol and the clerk, and then we go to the board of trustees, and then that's when, you know, they start getting the red marker out. This is the first go at it.
I would like to add handicap accessibility line. I don't know how much to put in there, but either for Marcus or Eastern Park. But I'd like to start putting in some money, start in the improvements for handicap accessibility for both of those parks. I know we have to come up with a big plan, but if we gotta put some money in the budget so we can start on some type of a plan. We can always come up with a plan later, but we need to start putting some money in there to start making these parks handicap accessible as per the 5-year plan.
I couldn't agree more. I think it's an important long-term priority. Although the details, you know, as usual, need to be worked out. I mean, accessibility is not a very precise term. Accessibility to what, by whom, with what challenges, you know. I think you're thinking largely of people in confined to chairs, right?
Well, you know, we need to open up all, you know, what it states here is accessibility to all areas of the park, both parks.
Okay, you know, I can ask to create another account for that, but I'll tell you what they're gonna tell us, is they're gonna say, figure out how much it's gonna cost, go find a grant money and we'll try to match it with you. That's what they're gonna tell you. They're not gonna put money away for it. They're not gonna
I'm not gonna say put money in, I'm saying put money in the budget for it.
Put money in the budget for it.
Yes, put money in the budget for
Okay,
it.
so there's two things the way that the township runs their budget. One, you have a rollover account as we have now for
Right.
the disc golf dollars. The possibility of another rollover account for long-term maintenance. Everything else, you don't use it, you lose it.
Right.
Okay? So if you want to, creating another handicap, we'll just call it the handicap accessibility fund. Creating that fund and asking them to put dollars into it, the first thing they're going to say is, you want to make this handicap accessibility a reality, then you need to tell us how much it's going to cost. And then you got to go out and try to find some grant money. We're not going to put money away for it. They won't.
So they're gonna tell us that we can't have money to improve the handicap accessibility here.
No. They're gonna tell us to go figure out how much it costs and figure out what kind of grant money you can get, and we'll help you match it.
Okay. So they're not gonna give us money unless we find grant money for, to me, that's so narrow-minded to just say, well, unless you come up with some grant money, we're not gonna let you put anything in the budget for handicap accessibility. If I say, let's put $2,000 in that budget, we will spend $2,000 in handicap accessibility, period. There's no doubt in my mind we'll spend $2,000 doing something to improve the accessibility at one or two, both of these parks. No doubt in my mind. Whatever money you put in there, we can spend. Even if you're doing, well, we can get them this far, or we can get them this far, or we can do this, you know. Whatever it might be, we'll spend the money to say that we're just not gonna give you money because you don't have a grant in mind. So we're not gonna allow you any accessibility money until you figure out exactly what you're gonna do and find matching grant funds is, I think, very narrow-minded of a
It may be
township.
very narrow-minded, and I understand your frustration. I faced that when I was on the commission before. We both come from business backgrounds, we know how things work. This works a little bit differently, I have to be very honest with you. And so you have to learn to work within those guidelines.
Well, I
And the other thing is,
understand.
and we can ask for accessibility money, but they're gonna wanna know, how much, what are we gonna get for $2,000, and where's it gonna be? And if we say, well, we wanna do some handicap accessibility ramps or grid work for people at Marcus Park, it's gone. They're not gonna give us anything at Marcus Park, you know that. You know, no matter if it's on the master plan or not. And I'm gonna fight that battle in 2 weeks. And I'm gonna do my very best. But I've gotta be honest with you.
So I'm being told that we have a master plan that we can't follow because our trustees won't give us money to follow it. Is that the state of our local government? That's where we are?
We have a master plan that was adopted. We're gonna do our best to fulfill that master plan to the best of our abilities, but they still, I'm sorry, they hold a checkbook. They're gonna give us.
Well, I understand that they hold a checkbook, and I understand that we need to ask for the appropriate funds to do this. But I think we need to ask.
No problems, I'll ask.
And if they shoot us down and say no, then we need to have a reasoning as to why.
Well, I'm
They
gonna
won't
play,
allow those
I'm
funds.
gonna play the devil's advocate with you, and I'm gonna be a board trustee,
Okay,
and you're gonna be me.
okay.
And you're gonna come to me and say, we've got a line item here called handicap accessibility, we want $2,000. Here's what I'm gonna tell you we can buy. How much it's gonna cost and where's it gonna go?
Okay,
All right.
I'll call tomorrow and get how much it costs per foot of the ramping.
Okay? So then I can go to them and say, we want $2,000 to buy 100 foot of this handicap ramping that we'd like to be able to use to get people down to the lake at Eastern Park.
Yes.
See, that's something I can tell them. I just can't put a line item in there and not say what I'm paying, what I'm buying.
Okay.
I gotta let them.
I can find out real quick how much it costs per foot of that silver planking.
You know what, and if
No
you
problem.
can give me how much it costs and how much you think we can get with it, I'll put it in there. I have no problem with that. And
No, that's
but
what
I
I need to
need, you have to understand, I need to go with them with an explanation of why I want to spend the township's money, the taxpayers' money, and what they're gonna buy. Because you can never leave it open-ended.
Well, no, I understand that. I'm just trying to follow the plan that's put before me. And for me to do that, we have to buy stuff.
Sure.
We have to spend money. That's, to say do these things, but you can't have any money,
Yeah, they're, you know,
doesn't make any
well,
sense
that's
to
where
me.
we have to come in and say what we want to buy, what we want to improve, and then it's the chair's responsibility to make that sale. But I have to have something I can sell. I can't just sell anything.
I will send you something tomorrow.
Perfect. It'd be wonderful. I'll put it in.
Okay.
And then what I'll do is when we get all these little pieces and parts, you're all gonna get an email with the revised, you two there. And then I'm gonna sit down with the clerk and then we're gonna go from there and see what we can do.
Okay,
Is that agreeable?
I can do that.
I'd like to go back to sports and shorts here because I need to put a dollar amount in here.
I make a motion we do sports and shorts for $1,500 and ask them if they could come here for a couple of days.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? I'll call them tomorrow and get my findings. Questions about the dollar amounts that I have in here at this point?
The same comment I made before, all of this reflects priorities. Right? And while we discuss individual items, we're not discussing them in the context of the policies that would help us decide what the priorities should be. I mean,
It's
these
all
things
on
all
observation.
sound like good ideas, but they're not, necessarily tied to any particular policy goals that I can see.
Well, the only policies that we have, Tom, are guidelines that are laid out in the master plan.
Well, I mean, that's a good place to start, but
But I mean, we recognize, I mean,
We're not asking,
it's the commission's responsibility to review and visit and look at the parks and recognize areas for improvement, which is something that Greg and I do on a regular basis. And I know that Mary Beth has been out and looked at a few things. But, I mean, it takes someone being in the parks, not just coming in on a once-a-month meeting and saying, where did you come up with this stuff? People have to be involved, they have to be engaged. So, that's how you...
I'm trying to interpret the tenor of your remarks and the fact
No,
that
it's
you're
just
looking at me while you're saying
Well,
that,
because you
as though I hadn't set foot in the park in the last 2 years.
No, that's not my intention at all. What I'm saying is, items end up, some of these items, of course, we have no control over. Other items are things that we recognize as opportunities for improvement. And when you've got 1 or 2 people on the commission that are making these recommendations because of their observations, and I've requested on a number of occasions that other commissioners make recommendations. Come look at the parks, look at you, give us another set of eyeballs of things that we need to enhance, improve, or create.
Well, I'm in a halting and apparently not very cogent way trying to tell you, in my opinion, that one of the things that we ought to be including in the budget is more attention to management of the natural resources. Mm-hmm. And I think you tentatively agreed with me, as long as I can do the equivalent of what you asked Mary to do, which was to give you a price tag for a particular item.
Right. And I'm going to be very honest with this commission, and I'm going to tell you, it's been my experience in the past that there are a group of individuals that have sat here and had all these great ideas, and they put it all on the chair to get it done. And I'm not going to do that. I'm going to make all of you working members of this commission, and if you don't like that, I'm going to ask you to step up to the plate and get it done. Don't think that, you know, this is a full-time job for me. You don't have all these ideas and the chair doesn't go out and get off the beds and do all the homework, come back and sit there. That's not the way this commission, that's not the way I'm going to run this commission. And if you don't like that, you'll have the opportunity in April to unseat me as chair. But I'm going to tell you right now, it is my expectation as the chair of this commission that every member of this commission will be a working member of this commission. That is my expectation. I've run every other commission I've ever been on in any other organization the same way. And it works. It works really, really well. So
I couldn't agree with you more.
Meeting pay, how many meetings is that for?
12.
Okay.
I'm proposing 12.
Yeah.
They're going to come back and tell me 9, and I'm going to tell them no. That's right. If we want to get something done, we want to get things done, we need to meet once a month. As well as the emails that we're going to be throwing back and forth, which has been very good, by the way. It has from the get-go.
How much would it cost us to, like Township having this other resource person, to have them be at the meetings?
Same pay as me.
40, so for $40 so for $480 a year, we can have somebody here as a resource person?
I don't know that.
Well, I don't know if somebody would show up for that or not, but
They would have to agree to that amount, and the Board of Trustees would also have to agree to having another person
right.
paid at the meetings. It would go both ways.
But that's a possibility, right? I mean, that might cover what you're talking about, having a resource person here. You know, $40 to be at the meeting. It wouldn't be a voting person, he or she. It would be a voting person, but
And they wouldn't sit at this panel, they'd be in the audience.
But they'd be at our disposal to ask questions and et cetera.
And make recommendations.
Make recommendations.
That might be a great approach.
I don't think it'd be a bad way at all.
Best person we can get for $40.
Well, I don't know. I
We're
mean,
all
you know,
civil
look,
servants here.
and we just look at it a little bit, you know? I
We're all
mean,
civil servants.
you know, you find somebody that can give us the knowledge that we're looking for, Tom, and maybe they'll come in and they'll do a survey of everything, you know, when the weather breaks, and charge us X amount of dollars, and then, you know, there's gotta be a period of time where we can ask them questions based on the reports they give us, or we can ask them to do the reports, but then, you know, would they be available 6 times a year at $40 a meeting to come in and do a 10-minute report for us? That's an opportunity too. I mean, you know, we just think outside the box and see what we can come up with.
I'm in favor.
Oh, I'll look into it.
I think it'd be actually kind of cool. I think it'd be great. See what you can come up with.
I think it would be a miracle.
Maybe. But you know,
Well, we're all here.
I'm of the opinion that if you don't ask, you don't get. So,
Ask a foolish question and what do you
well, that's true, and I'm sure I've asked a lot of foolish questions in my life.
How many benches is that, and can we expand that to include all the trails in the park?
Well, the benches, that would be for 12 additional.
They wouldn't all have to go on the disc golf course.
No, they could be scattered around.
Okay, can we just take this golf course out there, just put sitting benches, and then spread them 12 sitting benches?
I could do that, yes.
When are we gonna decide how we're gonna be spending the funds that have been generated by the disc golf course? And out of that account, that would be a budget item.
No, that's not a budget kind
That's
of
something
thing.
we can
It's,
address at any time.
that's right, it's something we can do at any time.
What, do you know what the balance is, Mary?
No.
Okay. It's probably close to 850, 900.
I can check tomorrow and let you know if you want. I can email everybody and let you know.
You know, that's, I see that as things that we can, I guess the best example I can make is 2 years ago, this commission suggested that we buy a couple of safety swings, one for Eastern Park, one for Marcus, and they told us no, we couldn't have them. Well, if we really felt strongly about it as a commission, now we have these funds that are generated by the disc golf course, we can go buy them and put them up, and trustees.
Could those funds be used to put a porta john in at Marcus?
I think so. I
We're
mean, it's
requesting
it's,
one, right? If they put it,
That's,
then we could spend the money toward that.
yeah, we could. 6 months out of the year, do the math, it's about $900, $950. Wow, I got it on
All right.
here. $810. We could. We could do that.
We'll ask them first.
Oh, of course. Of course we're going to.
But we need a porta john over there. That's kind of ridiculous.
Well, if they tell us no, we can't have it, we'll say, all right, we'll split the cost with you. We'll use it out of our expendable funds. You'll pay for half, we'll pay for half. I mean, there's negotiations.
Right.
I think it's a good idea that we go on.
I think that's critical, really.
Well, we've always thought it was critical. Anything else? Anybody would like to discuss regarding the budget?
So all the big future projects like the playground equipment, et cetera, are going to be like grant-funded projects.
Well, when I have a line on here, number 7, future projects, is I need you guys to figure out what projects that we want to work on. And then we're going to go and we're going to figure out how we're going to pay for them. It's going to probably take a year to get grants and that kind of thing. I think playground equipment's one of them. I think, I want to try to get the Little League back out here playing. And I've already made some contacts on that. I'd like to get a youth soccer program started. These are all things that I want to do. That's why I want to fix the goals.
Right.
So that we can take that area over there and make it a soccer field. You know, but we have to figure out what a youth soccer program is really gonna cost. It may not cost anything, but we still have to have somebody that oversee it, manage it, or, you know, look into it. And there's a lot of soccer organizations, not only in Whitehall and Montague, but in, you know, Norton Shores, Grand Haven area, and these people they have a wealth of information. They'd be more than happy to share their experiences and help us launch a successful program.
So what do you plan on putting down in here for extend water to the south pavilion,
I have-
playground equipment, Marcus Park parking?
Well,
What are we planning on putting in there?
we're probably not gonna put them in there. We're probably gonna take them out, because we don't have dollar amounts. I'm trying to make a few contacts on the Marcus Park parking, but, you know, once again, nobody's calling me back, so.
How do we get the ball rolling on grant funding? Because it seems to me like we keep kicking the can down the road, saying, well, you know, it's too late this year.
Right.
And
So
next year
like
it
Terry's
comes
got
up.
what you want to do, and then I think you need to make decisions on what it is you want to do for the following budget year, and then figure that out.
Exactly.
Because you keep talking about all the ideas that you want to do,
Right.
and then the time you want to do them, that's when these things are kind of overlapping. So I think you guys need to maybe set what you want to do in the next year, as he's saying, for future projects, and then look into the grants and make them connect.
And Marcia has got
Terry's
a
that
book
thing.
full of grants that are available.
She's got that thing up in April up in Traverse City.
So we need to get going on the grant stuff.
We need to figure out what you want to do as projects. Then we find out what kind of grant money we can get to accomplish those and start that
So
process.
do we have to choose between Marcus Park and playground equipment and tennis court? One
No,
of the three?
no, you don't have to choose. You can do all three of them if you want. But you got to decide what your projects are. Then we look at what grant money is available that best fits our needs or best.
Well, I'd like to explore all three of those.
Okay. Well, then I am going to take them out of the budget because there's no dollar amounts there.
Right.
But I put them in there because I wanted to get you thinking along those lines.
So as a Parks and Rec Commission, I think we need to, that's our job.
Mhm. And I gave you a ton of information on playground equipment.
We did.
So, I mean, I was looking into that when I was on the commission prior. There's tons of stuff out there.
I don't know where to start though as far as grant funding, right?
Well, first of all, we look at, you figure out what playground equipment and who you want to buy it from and what it's going to cost. And then from there, you figure out, then we go and we find out what kind of money is available for it. And the link that I sent everybody in regards to how Ludington State Park funded their new playground, they found an organization that has the playground equipment, and they help finance it. They underwrote some of it.
I saw on the news though that they're still up in the air though about a lot of, I mean, you know, the funding is still up in the air a little bit. But anyway, but Mary, you got some information on the Marcus Park project, right? So you can kind of stay on top of that.
Yeah, I didn't expect it would be able to be put in the budget this year because there's a lot of, like I said, I think it needs to be done in 3 separate phases.
Well,
So
that's
that all
okay.
has to be laid out.
Right, it has to be laid out, it has to be, you know, some ballpark numbers put in there,
So
and
that
then
would be your pet project.
That whole thing's gotta be laid out, it won't be this year's budget for sure, but it needs to be laid out.
I'll try to research the playground equipment and, you know, figure out what we need to come up with there.
the other thing that I was considering was, and, you know, talking to other people, we probably don't need 2 tennis courts. I brought that up last
Well,
week.
one good one would be better than 2 crappy ones.
Right, one good one, and we could use that other area, whichever one we salvage, we could use that area, and a lot of people like the idea of an outside exercise area. With outside exercise equipment, you have that information too. But I would be happy to take that portion away,
All right,
because I think that's a good project.
okay.
You know, so now we all have our projects. And then we've got, you know, until the end of the summer to kind of have our ducks in a row. And
The
then,
other thing that I want to add on for a project though is the fishing dock. And I'd like to.
fishing dock where? I say this because even though Carlette's not here tonight, we've had this issue with people dragging a picnic table
Yeah.
by her property out into the water, so I guess I'm asking fishing dock where?
It's on the Marcus Park.
It's on the Marcus Park one. I mean, it could be done here in Eastern Park too, but I'm thinking about finding out if that could be a scout project.
But we still have to finance it.
We'd have to pay for the materials, but it could be a scout project.
Could it be one of those floating docks?
I don't know, it could be.
I mean, where you don't have to physically go put the poles in the ground every year and set the dock on them, and could it be one of these floating anchor type things?
I don't see why not. I mean, I can propose it as I think it's, if the scout could take on this project, I think that would be, and come up with a proposal on the best way to do it, most efficient way to do it.
Is something you want to have this year's budget yet?
I would like to, but it's gonna take a while to find out, what the materials are the best type of deck, so it probably won't be in for, I'm more likely to be able to find out the number of feet for planking, but it depends on the size of the dock, the type of the dock, and, there's a lot of parameters, I think, on that one, but I would like to start the ball rolling.
And you probably have to be very careful about, the DNR and the
Right.
DEQ, and that's why I say a floating dock, maybe it's anchored back at the beach, with maybe some just weights in the ground that's tied to keep it from shifting, may be doable, but I think there's gonna be permits involved.
Well, yeah, there's docks out at Marcus Park already, along the road. There just isn't one at the,
Right,
park.
those are property owners.
they're still in the water. The DEQ's the same, whether it's property owners,
Property owners pretty much do whatever they want.
well, that's
They
not
have-
true.
they have-
They still have to
they
follow
have
the
some
DEQ guidelines, and they still follow the guidelines, so there are docks there. And to say you can't put a dock 100 feet over, I think there's docks out there, so I think we wouldn't have any trouble. It's just, I think it'd be a great scout project.
I think you're right. It's Eagle Scout, the Scout's gonna be, hopefully, every year, we're gonna have a group of
Yeah.
Eagle Scouts that wanna participate, so.
Yeah, they're a big help.
They are, and they're supposed to take on big projects with leadership roles, so.
Yeah, well, let's, make it a project.
Yeah, so I just wanted it on the project list. And it's not in the master plan for an Eastern Park, but if we can start getting accessibility down there, then maybe we have a dock down there, people put their picnic tables out into the water, and
Anything else about the budget? Okay. I don't have any. Commissioners' comments? Anybody have any comments before we close for the evening? I make a motion that we adjourn.
Second it?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks, everybody.
Sure.